to cloud. All right. And this one should be pretty straightforward with that. So we'll do lesson 10. Let's go ahead and open up the start file. I'm going to go to file and open. Let's go to InDesign. Oops, I went to lesson 11, lesson 10. And we'll go to 10 start. All right. I think this one's also going to pop up with, do you want to replace these files? No. Okay. So yeah, so this is going to talk about tables. And I know I'm not sharing my screen yet before Uthman jumps on me about it, since he's so good at that. But tables, they have, a lot of times we don't always know how to use them. One thing to think about with tables is like spreadsheets. I mean, it's basically like an Excel kind of thing. So we have a table and we have cells, and each individual box in the table is a cell. But what's really great about this is it's not just about like information. So if you have a job, you get your insurance benefits. And so inside that insurance packet, they'll have tables describing everything, what your deductible, what your coverages are and stuff. That's actually stuff that I made. I make those tables, I'd make that booklet. But so that a lot of times we tend to associate tables with that kind of information. But one thing, they don't talk about this in the lesson specifically, but one thing you can do is you can remove all the, what's called, remember the inset spacing, which is where they pushes away from the side, but pushes inward. You can remove all of that, and you can even remove all the outlines. And now you've created a grid to allow you to place things. So for example, and this part's part of the lesson, but they'll show you how to turn a cell inside of a table so that it can house a graphic, which they introduced about 5 years ago. And that thing was amazing. Actually, it might have been about 6, but that was so awesome because I started using it at work. I was able to do, dentistry with this, and then chiropractics and stuff like that. So I was able to put images inside the table, and it didn't have the inset space, like pushing and creating like a bigger kind of visual issue, if you will, in the way it looked. But there's a lot of different ways that you can use tables, just even for organization. So you could have like an art piece and then a description, pricing, or any information, who the artist was, if you wanted to. Which is why I was saying like this could be used in the sense of like a catalog type of listing. So, but it's a really, really cool little lesson. I love this, and tables are really useful, and this is something I'm super comfortable in. Just because I did spend about 4 years messing with tables at work. And so if you ever get into tables and you're like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing, hey, just reach out, man. Like I'm still really familiar and comfortable with them. So, all right, so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. And I apologize if I cough. Like I said, I got like a upper respiratory or something, and then the allergies here are going crazy, so the mold's out today. But I'm still alive and kicking. I'm on this side of the dirt. I can't complain. So, okay. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this text here. This is going to be kind of like a flyer that we're creating, and it's going to have some really basically, like it says, daily drop-in activities for the summer. We're going to list out these different things, which you already have. It's got days, it's got times, it's got a fee that's associated to it. And so we're going to take a look at all these really cool aspects of tables. One thing that I want you to look at first, we've mentioned this before, but you're going to notice those double arrowheads that are there. Like, for example, where it says attracting butterflies, it has it between the SU, which is Sunday, and then there's the 8 to 10 a.m. So that's a tab key. That's the actual tab key. So remember, we talked about this I think it was actually the last lesson in lesson 8. And we were talking about how that tab, you can use that to do the tab settings and such too. But tables you can do the tables and then remove all the lines that outline the table, which we'll do in this lesson. And that could actually help you with some of that organization as well. But just keep in mind that these are tabs. And then at the very end of each line, pay attention to that backwards P, which again is a hard return. If it's a soft return, it doesn't recognize it as a hard return. So those are the two main things right now we're going to take a look at. What we're first going to do is we're going to convert this text into a table. And so one of the weird things about tables is that they actually exist in text frames. They don't have their own frames. They're not images. It's actually text. So whenever you're going in to like edit your table information, like if it's dates, times, things like that, you actually need to use your type tool because this exists and lives inside of a text frame. So with that, let's go ahead and grab our type tool from the toolbar on the left. And we're going to select everything from daily drop-in activities all the way down. Whoops. Mine's like trying to draw a new text frame. There we go. All the way to $10. I believe this was pre-pandemic lessons. So right now, these cool fees are probably up by $25 easily. I'm dreading going to the store later for groceries. But daily drop-in activities all the way down to $10. So keep in mind, I told you the tab where the tab key's been applied, the tab marks, and then the hard returns. So this is actually a fun thing. I used to back in the day, like face to face, I'd be like, okay, this is really really hard little process. It's not really hard; it just takes a little a lot in this process. Pay attention, just do everything I do, okay? And it was just funny to watch everyone like really concentrate because it's not that hard. And since I can't see your faces, I won't do it. But let's go ahead and go to the type menu at the top. So we selected all of our text, and we're going to go to the type menu at the top. And then you're going to go, oh, I'm sorry, my brain just snapped back to reality. We're going to go to the table menu. It's two spots over to the right. It's the table menu. Today, for this lesson, we are pretty much primarily going to be living inside of the table menu. It's not a big menu, but like everything involving a table is in here. So once we select our text, we're going to go to the table menu at the top, and then you're going to see the second option. It says convert text to table. Before I click it, I want you to also just kind of look at the option below it, convert table to text. So I got to a point like being able to work with tables where I was able to actually create a table with the text just like this. I would convert it to a table. And then when something messed up, I'd convert it back to text and fix that thing and then convert it to a table. So that's kind of why I want you to pay attention to tab marks and the hard returns. But just bear in mind that if something messes up, you're not stuck and have to delete and start over. You can actually just convert the table back to the text and do any edits or any changes that you need to do. A lot of times, I would say probably most of the time, that's going to be accidentally hitting a hard return when a soft return is what you want to do for like paragraphs and things. But you're going to, in a second, see what I mean by the hard return. So we selected all the text. We went to the table menu at the top, and then we're going to choose the second option, convert text to table. All right. So this is why it was really important to pay attention to those tab marks and the hard returns. So there are a few options that they have for you. So you could do tabs, commas, and paragraphs. I don't suggest commas. This is for the column separators. I don't recommend commas because if you're actually entering in, a bit of text like a sentence, you may have a comma in there as part of the punctuation in the grammar structure. So you got to be real careful about that. And I did. I've actually had whole paragraphs where I'm like, well, comma's going to mess this up. And then for the paragraph part, I just really leave this as the tab. So this one's, everywhere there's a tab, that means it's going to be a column division. So you have your name of the activity, the day, the time, and the cost, right? And so that's where the tab marks come in. Now, the row separators, they set them to paragraphs. And again, don't recommend commas for the exact same reason. I don't recommend tabs because tabs are kind of weird in the way that they line up. But the hard returns actually take you to the next line, which is like creating a row. So that's why I really just leave this as a default. I just want to show you that there's other options, but I would really just keep these two the way that they are. There's no need to make any changes to that. They used to have a couple other options, but thankfully they got rid of them. If you happen to have a table style created, you could apply it, but there's no styles in here. We're going to be creating that ourselves here as well. All right, so we have our text. We have our convert text to table. Let's go ahead and hit OK. Boom, there you go. Congratulations. You've created a table. But you can see, like, it's really simple. It doesn't take a lot of work to get the table out. But putting those tab marks in there, getting the hard returns are easy because for every row, you're just hitting the return key to drop to the next row. But with the columns, that's where it gets a little tricky. And a little bit of practice, and you'll be able to get it through. I mostly would type everything and then put the tab marks in and just be thinking about it as I'm doing it. So I took my time, but it paid off in the end. But here you go. This is a table. And we're going to modify it. This actually turns out to be a pretty cool looking lesson. All right, so we got that set. Changing rows and columns. All right. So we are going to go, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a row. This is going to seem pretty basic and it'll get more complicated as we get along, but it's not nothing you guys can't handle. So we're going to start with that very top row that says daily drop-in activities. You can put your cursor anywhere inside of here. I'm going to go ahead and put it just in the second cell or second column. All right. You can right click and it actually gives you the options of, inserting different things, like all your different options. But I'm going to take you through the menu as well, just so you can see, especially on the video, how to navigate through some of this. So I've got my cursor in the first row, just have it in the second cell. I apologize. We're going to go to the table menu at the top, go to table menu. And since we're in a table, you're going to see a lot more things light up, but don't worry about it. And then we're going to go all the way down to the sixth option. It says insert. So there's insert, delete, and select. So this has to do with your rows, columns, and your table. So the first one is insert, and then you're going to see your two options, a row and a cell. Column. So you can actually insert columns, which we'll do in a little while, and then we can insert rows, which is what we're going to do right now. So if you need to add more rows to your table because there's more information, this is how you do it. So insert, and we're going to choose row. And I love that you can choose how many rows you want to do. We're going to talk about that later in this lesson. We're going to tell it that we want to insert just one row. So we're just going to type it, I put in one, and then below, we wanted to put it below. So it's kind of cool. This is based on where your cursor's at. You can add a row above or add a row below. You can also row your boat. I'm just kidding. All right, so let's go ahead and hit OK. And so you can see that it adds a row right below the first row. One thing that I do want to tell you, because you're about to discover this, is that when you create a new row, the font setup, so all that font size, leading, font family, style, that's all going to be the exact same as the row that your cursor is in. So we did this from the top, which means the second row has the same font settings that the top row does, which is not a big deal because we're going to do a whole change in the way it looks. All right, so let's go to the second row. These are going to be our column heads. They're going to basically tell you what each column is. So the first one is the first one is activity. And then a nice little trick to know about navigating through the tables is just the tab key. Tab key jumps you to the next cell. All right, we're going to do, I keep hitting them, all caps, man. All right, we're going to do the second column, that's day. We're going to do the third column, which is time, and not the herb, though it does smell good. We have a big old pot of thyme on the back porch. And then the last one is fee. So we have activity, day, time, fee. When you're building a table, it's actually a good idea to label what the columns, inside the columns, what they are. I do realize that sometimes that's just not applicable. All right. So there's a couple ways, and I'll talk about it the second way a little bit later. I'll also be using it inside the video. But there's a couple ways to select rows and columns. So I'm going to do the easy one first, which is the click and drag. So we're going to choose that second row. Just start where activity is. You don't even have to select the word. This is really just click and dragging it all the way to the last column. So we're just going to where activity is, click, drag it across. You'll see that the cells fill in black in this case. Except for where fee is, because of that background, it's going to be kind of purplish, which looks pretty cool. All right. So we've selected that row. Again, you just got to click and drag across. And there you go. And then there is actually a paragraph style in this lesson. We don't have to create many things anymore if we've already gone over a lesson. So with styles, there's not a lot that we have to create. They'll have them in the lessons for us still. So let's go ahead and go to the type menu at the top. Type menu, and then go over to paragraph styles. Yeah, when Jerry emailed me, she was like really thrilled about that lesson 9. And I was like, good. I'm glad you guys enjoy it. It's a really great lesson. All right. So we have that row selected. For this one, they're basically the column heads. So there is one that says table column heads. We have all the text or all the rows selected. We're going to go ahead and click on table column heads. You're going to notice the font shrinks down just a little bit, so it's a good idea. So this is a thing called hierarchy, and it's a good term to know as a designer, especially if you do like interviews, because they'll talk to you about, what's your creative process, and then it's, oh, when you get to the point that you're actually laying stuff out, you can say, oh, well, I lay things out based on hierarchies and importance. Hierarchy is how the viewer reads that information, and you're creating it so they read it a certain way. And in this case, the daily drop-in activities is the largest text, which tells you it's a title. And so then we go over here to the column, the names for each column. That font is slightly smaller, but noticeably smaller. So we know that it's basically a subtitle. So it's the title of each column. But then it's going to be a little bit bigger than the rest of the text, which is called a body. So it's same thing if you're doing a header, a subheader in your paragraph, and then your regular body text. But that's called a hierarchy. So something that's a title or more important is going to be bigger or bolder or maybe red versus everything else. All right. So we got that all nice and set. Oh, yep. Okay. And then you could just click anywhere inside of the inside the table. I'm going to do hummingbird feeders. Our hummingbird feeder is outside. We just haven't seen any yet. So there you go. Oh, yes. Well, we do actually need to go and click on the last column where it says fee. That's why I always click the $50 because one, I want $50. Two, we have to be in the last column. So that's how you add a row, and then how we just went ahead and changed the fonts and the titles of the columns and everything using a paragraph style. So in the last column where it says fee, you can put your cursor anywhere in that column because we're going to add a column. Of course, I do $50 because, gas. So let's go ahead and we're going to add ourselves another column. Again, you could always right click and go to insert. It's there. Again, just for the video, I'm going to go to the table menu at the top. I'm going to go to insert and then go to column. So with my cursor in the last column where it says fee, I'm going to go to the table menu at the top, go to insert and choose column. Basically the same setup as whenever you're adding a row. It's just a left or a right. So, pay attention to that. And it's, I'm dyslexic. So sometimes I literally have to sit there and go, okay, right hand, gotcha. So we're going to add one row and we're going to add one column. We're going to add one column to the right. So once you click leave one there, go ahead and click on right and then hit OK. And don't worry about it being off the page. We're going to do something about that in a little bit when we talk about how to adjust columns and rows in terms of their widths and heights. All right, let's take a look at the table. We have this blank row at the bottom. This is actually a really common thing. I see it whenever we do text, the convert text to tables, but this actually happens even if there's not another hard return. It's a weird thing InDesign does, and I wish they would fix some of this like really mildly annoying things. But this is a pretty common thing to have happen. So we're just going to go ahead and get rid of this row. You can put your cursor anywhere in there. I'm going to go ahead and just put it in the second spot or second cell, second column on that last row. And then again, same thing. If you want to right click, it's going to be the delete. But I'm going to go to table, go to delete, and then we're deleting a row. So be really careful in here because number one, the very bottom option there is table, and you'll just delete your table. You can undo, which I remember when computers didn't have that option back in like the late 80s. But just be really aware of that because it just slows you down and annoys you. So, pay attention, row, column. We're going to delete a row. So go ahead and choose row. And there you go. It'll take that row out for you. I'll do that again just for the video. So I got my cursor in that last row, go to table, choose delete, and we're going to delete the row. Easy cheesy squeezy. All right. So next thing we're going to do is what's called rearrange rows. And honestly, this made my life so much easier. So yeah, about 6 years ago, they introduced this and it was amazing. You used to just have to add a row, start moving things around. But this really made it easy for me. So one of the things, if you look at the days of the week, it's out of order. You have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Friday. So growing edible flowers and making and flying kites, those two should be switched around. So they want us to go ahead and select growing edible flowers. I'm going to go ahead and select that. You can do the click and drag across. If you would like to try something different, you can go all the way to the left-hand side. Just move your cursor all the way to the left of the table. You'll actually see your cursor switch to an arrow that points to the right. Once you see that, just hold your cursor there and click, and it'll select the whole row. Um, if it doesn't work for you, don't worry about it. It took me a little bit of practice to get good at it, to where it just really happens almost every time. But it's up to you on how you want to, select the tables, select the rows, and select the columns. It also works in the corner to select the entire table, and it will also work at the top of a column to select the column. So it's just a little trick. Whichever one works for you, though. So just go ahead and make sure you select that bottom row, growing edible flowers. And then when you move your cursor around, you're going to see that cursor is a black arrow, and it's got two rectangles stacked on top of each other. So those represent cells, as in a table. And this basically allows you to click and drag. So we're just going to click and drag this up till you get that real thick blue line between tending flowers and making and flying kites. And then when you release, it actually reorders things so that whatever you selected, in this case, this row, was clicked, drag, we drug it up, released, and now everything's in a different order. If you try to drag it, like for example, you get over a cell or a row and there's no line and you let go, nothing happens. So you don't have to worry about accidentally, putting it somewhere. You just have to be real careful about, making sure that you're applying it into the right spot. So in this case, now we have our day set up to Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and we're good to go there. Like I said, this is a pretty easy lesson. Alrighty, let's take a look at adjusting the column widths, row heights, and text placement. So now we're going to get a little nitty gritty on this one. So it says using the tabs. Yes. So when we're looking at in this case, the column widths, because if you look at day, there's a whole lot of space there. Look at fee, there's a whole lot of space there. So we're going to actually adjust those. You can put your cursor over the lines that actually separate columns, and you get the double-sided arrows. I'm just going to scooch this down a little bit for between day and time, and shrink the day column. But this allows you to manually adjust that, which is really nice. I'm going to put this in the chat too, just in case. So they do want us to undo it, which, I mean, we're going to be adjusting things anyways. But as you can see, that's how you manually do it. For something like this, I would absolutely do it manually, just because if you're looking at the activities, we're going to need to pull that out because of the last row where it says flying kites, and then the middle one that says making hummingbird feeders. And so those, we really want to be cognizant, the word I'm looking for, of putting things on one row if we can. And then, obviously we want to reduce some of the space where it says day and reduce some of the space for fee. And that'll bring our last column in as well. So what they're going to have us do, I just put it in the chat, but they do have the actual widths for each one of these. It says for the activities, they want us to move this to 3.5 inches, which is really far out. I don't think they really need to pull that out that far, but okay. The column divider for day and time, they want that at 4.25. That looks a lot better though. For the time, they want us to do that at 5.5. That's not too bad. And then for fee, they want it at 7.75. Oh no, sorry, 6.25. I always miss that one. 6.25, which looks better. And then that last column, they want us to, it says 7.75. You're just pulling it into the margin. So again, we're going to adjust the column dividers between the columns. So the first one between activity and day, that's going to be 3.5 inches. And then the second one is going to be between day and time, that's 4.25. And then between time and fee, that's going to be 5.5. And then for between fee and the blank column, that one's going to be 6.25. And then just go ahead and pull that last side of the table for the blank column on the right. Just pull that over to the margin. Pretty easy. Yeah, and then we'll take a look. There's a way to manually do this. I mean, sorry, there's a way to automatically do it, which we're gonna look at. I'm gonna show you guys, but they want us to manually do it. We're actually gonna do the automatic one for the rows. All right, so let's see. I'm just double checking with the pictures they have. I just really don't think they need to move some of that far, but what else? Okay, so the next thing that we're going to take a look at is, oh, they want us to select the table. Okay, we're going to go ahead and select the table. So there's two ways that you can select the entire table. You could start where it says daily drop-in and just click and drag it all the way to the bottom right corner. That one works real easily. You can also just have your cursor in here. And when you go to table, there's an option that's the 8th option down, and it's sorry, select. My brain's having a fart. Go to select, and you could do table. So you can also see there's cell, row, column. So there's some options. And then, like I said, if you're feeling comfortable with that one-click action that I showed you, just go to the top left corner. You'll get a diagonal arrow that's facing down in a diagonal fashion. Just click, and that'll select the entire table. But what we're looking to do is go ahead and select the entire table. Did that. Then we're going to go to the window menu. So go to window. Remember, this one is in alphabetical order, which is why I like to go here the most. And then we're going to go to the second option, second to the last option. The very bottom thing is actually the name of your file. It gives you the information, like how zoomed in you are, yada, yada. So I don't count that, but the last option is utilities, and right above it is type in tables. So we're going to go to type in tables, and then we're going to do table to, and choose table. So we have the whole table selected. We're going to go ahead and go to the window menu at the top. And then we're going to go down to the bottom, choose type in tables. And then we're going to choose table. So this opens up a little panel. It doesn't seem like much, but this panel's actually got a lot going on for it. So the first part, it's going to talk about rows. This is the number of rows that you have inside of your document. If you needed to change that, you can actually go in here as well, rather than just doing add rows, add columns. You could go in here, but it tells us we have 9 rows and we have 5 columns. I'm not good at math, so I'm just going to assume that's right because InDesign seems to know what it's doing. The next part down is, so this, we're going to talk about this in a little while, but it's your row height and your column width. So this does it, and this allows you flexibility, or it can be static, but we're going to talk about that in a different part of the lesson. But I used to use this a lot. The next one down, it does alignments. So this is what we talked about in lesson 4, actually, first. And it's that vertical justification. Do you want something top, sitting at the top, sitting in the middle vertically, or sitting at the bottom, for example? So this one, they're not having us do anything there. But we're going to go with this last part where it's got like the boxes and then the arrows. This is your inset. So we talked about that before. And actually, it was in lesson 4 when we first saw it. So remember that with inset space, because it starts with an I, that means it's on the inside. So for example, if you look at your table, you'll notice that the letters for your words and such, they don't butt up against the left side and they don't butt up against the top. So when you look at these numbers down here, that's that spacing that's preventing it from going like right up against the edge. So keep that in mind. Just because, you can adjust that as we're about to do, but also keep that in mind because you may need to increase it sometimes for whatever reasons. But this is what we're about to mess with. Make sure that the chain is linked. It's a good idea to keep it consistent. And sometimes you may not need as much space on the sides, but you need some more at the top and the bottom. Then go ahead and unlink it. But we want to keep everything consistent right now. So we're going to go ahead and leave that selection, the chain linked. And then for the first box, we're going to change that value to 0.125. 0.125, hit tab, and it's going to blow your table out. So basically what we did was, I mean, we just slightly over doubled that inset space. So you can see the space from the left, for because it's all left aligned, it's moved further inwards. Like there's more space on the left side between the edges of the cell and the text. And that's part of it. And then look at the top and the bottom of your cells as well. So why would you want to increase that space? It might just be there's a whole lot of information and you want to add some separated space so that it's a little easier for the viewer to read. Remember how I always talked about, like, if stuff's too close together, it creates a visual stress. So that could be the case as well. All right, and then let's go back up to the vertical justification. So the lines that are at the top, lines that are in the middle, lines that are at the bottom. They want us to choose to do the center. So we're going to choose that second option. And honestly, with tables, this isn't this should be one of the first things you set, and is that vertical justification or vertical alignment. So we're going to align everything center vertically. Makes it look nice. All right. And you're welcome to try like align bottom. It's just going to put stuff at the bottom, align center. All right. So, all right. Close this panel. We're going to go ahead and click anywhere inside of our table. I'm going to do butterflies. I like butterflies. They're cool. All right. So that deselects your table. And I mean, honestly, the table's already starting to look pretty nice. We've got lots of space. Makes it easy to read. So let's keep going. And I know you guys will probably get bugged by this, the fact that that top row, it's just got all those columns, the text. So we're going to go ahead and merge everything. If you've worked in Microsoft Excel, it's basically the exact same idea of just merging cells to create one big supercell. So we're going to select that row. You can click and drag across if you like, or you can do that side arrow click. Well, we just want to select that entire row. When you right click on there, you're going to see that the sixth option is actually merge cells. But I'm going to go to the table menu at the top, and here it's actually going to be the ninth option. But you'll see merge cells, and then basically that merges all the cells together. Now, just a little tidbit, and because I have done this myself, and this is that whole, I did something because I thought it would look really cool design-wise, and no one said anything about changing it. So I did do the merge where I merged all but one cell just to mess around and see if anyone noticed, and no one noticed. And so just keep in mind that you can merge as many cells as you want, or as many few as you desire. Like, you don't have to merge an entire row. So it could just be a couple cells if you want. But if you do that, have a plan and justify that action, because if you're working with other designers, they're going to say, so what were your thoughts behind that? What's the reason you did this? And I've actually done stuff before where I just say, oh, I just thought it'd be visually interesting. And that, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. All right. So that's pretty easy breezy. We're going to next look at, I'm just looking to see what else they have. All right. So we're going to do what's called formatting your table. This is where we're going to start actually changing some more of the visual aspects, adding color. You might remove some lines or something, change the value, let's stroke on some of these lines, things like that. So what we're going to do is called a fill pattern. We are going to do, let's go ahead and take our type tool. And then we're going to put our cursor anywhere inside of the table. I'm going to do the word edible for growing edible flowers. And so with our cursor inside the table, and I'll tell you, so tables and cells are somewhat like paragraph styles or paragraphs and characters. So if you want to address a cell, you have to select the cell. If you want to address the table, you really just put your cursor anywhere in the table. So that's why whenever we select the table, we're doing something that's kind of like specific to cells, but we're doing it all at once. So it's kind of like you have to select the characters to make changes or to make a character style. If you want to make changes to a paragraph, you just got to put your cursor inside that paragraph. Okay, so we have our cursor inside of our table. We're going to go to the table menu at the top. Table menu at the top. We're going to go to table options. It's the fourth option down. We're going to go to the table options and then choose what's called alternating fills. It's okay if you choose something by accident because this opens up a panel and these are all just tabs in that panel, okay? But we have our cursor in the table. We're going to go to the table menu at the top. We're going to go to the fourth option, table options, and then we're going to choose alternating fills. Always make sure you hit that preview box, okay? It's a good idea to see what you're doing while you're doing it. All right. So alternating patterns, it doesn't always click at first, but you've seen this all the time, actually. If you've seen tables. And if you didn't, they better have some other fancy, like nice visual way to help you see things a certain way. So we're going to go ahead and drop down this menu. So you see there's options, none, every other row, every second row, every third row. So let's choose the first option, every other row. And so you should start to see kind of what that is. So what it's doing is every other row, there's going to be black is currently the setting. They set the tint to 20%. Remember from the color lesson, tint when it comes to art actually means to lighten a color. So pink is a tint of red, which is how I get my younger male students to like be okay with pink. I mean, it's not like middle school boys being like pink's a girl's color. Red's not a girl's color, so don't get onto that. So anyways, you can start to see it visually down here. And what that does is having those, even if it's columns, but just having that separation helps the viewer to say, okay, attracting butterflies this Sunday at 8 to 10 a.m. It's $10. Like it's real easy to run across. And oh my gosh, I get so pissed off when I see a table and it's just so poorly put together that they didn't even bother to like change those colors because it just makes it hard to follow information. Okay, so they want us to basically leave that alone. We're good to go. But you are always going to be able to change the color. You can always change the tint. But we'll talk a little bit about color choices and things like that a little later. All right, so we're going to go ahead next and we're going to change the color of a cell. And it's going to be this top one, daily drop-in activities, where they're having us go ahead and change that gray. It's going to be something different. So again, two ways that you can select this. You could just click and drag, as far over as you can, and probably about 3/4 of the way across that row, it'll actually select the entire row. But again, if you're getting comfortable with that one-click wonder, go for it. But just go ahead and select that very top row where it says daily drop-in activities. All right. Once you have that all selected, we're going to go to our swatches panel. So remember on the right-hand side, it's the one that's got the 2 rows of 3 boxes. You can also go to the window menu at the top, go to color, and choose swatches as well. So inside here, select the fill box. So that's going to be the gray. Remember, fill is the top left box, stroke is the bottom left. In this case, fill is the gray, stroke is the black outline. And they want us to go ahead and change that gray with a purple. So we're going to select the purple. But one thing before we take a look at that purple is I want you to notice that where it says tint at the top of the panel, it still says 20%. So that was what it was set for alternating fills. It's gonna maintain that setting if you change the color. So that's also something they don't really touch on in the color lesson specifically. But if you have a tint or you set a tint and then you change that color for something specific that has that tint, it's gonna leave that tint there. So it's still got 20%. But they want us to change that to 50. So we're going to scroll a little bit, baby up. There we go. Mine was having a little trouble getting onto the 50 mark. And then we will go to edit, deselect all. So all we did there was select the row, change the color, and then adjust the fill. And so that purple, it gets your attention. And that's something that's important because you want people to see the title. One thing to keep in mind is that if you they're using gray, but if you're using a color for your table for your alternating rows, make the top row or your header is actually what it's referred to. Make that header that same color, but make it less of a tint, like make it more vibrant. And so that it stands out. Now, gray and a light purple works, but we could actually change, we're not going to, but we could change those grays and make them a lighter version of the purple, and it would work perfect because you're going to have a more purple at the top, and then you'll have a lighter purple inside of the table. So just a little something to keep in mind. All right, we got that all set. Oh man, this one. Okay. Yeah, this once I learned how this tool worked, oh, yeah, I could make my tables look amazing. All right, so there's a thing, there's a cool little box and it edits the actual lines inside of your table. So, and I'm assuming you guys ain't got questions because y'all being quiet, so you're good to go. But just remember, stop me if you need me to, okay? All right, so we're gonna go ahead and select the entire table. So go ahead and select it. You could do the click and drag or you could do the one click wonder. When you do that, you're going to see the top in the control panel. It's pretty much dead center, but there's a spot that's got a blue rectangle outlined, and then it's got a crisscross, like it looks like a window, basically. I don't know why it didn't click right there. So this is, they call this what's called proxy preview. Man, I just call it the table line thing. It's a really, really useful tool. So the lines on the outside that are currently lit up blue, those number one, the blue color means that that's what you're addressing. So any changes we make, it's really just looking at the lines on the outside of the table. But the lines on the inside, that's actually your horizontal lines and your vertical lines inside for, and it's for whatever you have selected. So if you just have a few cells, like maybe a couple rows, then it's just going to address those couple rows. But with this, as we're about to find out, you can literally address all the horizontal rows, all the vertical rows, just the horizontal and vertical inside, or just, one. It just depends. I've actually worked on a client where all we did was have vertical lines to separate the columns. And then we had alternating rows, and that was it. But there were no other lines, just the column dividers. And it looked really elegant and slick. And the way I did that was by using these lines at the top in that control panel by adjusting that, made it real easy. So what we're going to do inside there is we're going to select all the horizontal rows. When it's blue, if you click on a blue line, it actually turns it gray, which means it's not selected. Okay. So we're just going to select the top, the middle, and the bottom horizontal lines. The top, middle, and bottom horizontal lines. I'll give you guys a second just to get them selected. Sometimes, like especially when I started doing this part, it would take me a couple of clicks to get something selected. I think every so often it still happens. So we want the left, center, and right vertical lines to be gray, and we want the top, bottom, and the center horizontal lines to be selected. Okay. So with that, when we look to the left, you're going to see it says 1 PT, so 1 point. That's your stroke weight, and then it has a solid black line below it. So we're not going to mess with the solid black line. We're going to leave that alone. But where it says 1 point, we're going to change that value to 0. Oh, it just dawned on me that they're going to do what I was just describing. They're going to leave just the column dividers. So there you go. And it looks in, because we have the alternating row, it'll work. Once you have that setting in, so there's no strokes, you have no horizontal lines. We're going to select those lines again so that we don't, or let me rephrase that. We're going to click on those lines again so that we can deselect them. And now we're going to choose the vertical lines. So I'm going to start at the left, go to the center, and then choose the right. So again, we're going to select everything thing, we're going to we did the horizontal lines. We made sure that the vertical lines were not selected, so they were gray. We made sure the horizontal lines were selected, so they were blue. And then we changed the value to 0, so there's no horizontal lines. They have no stroke. Then we went ahead and clicked on the horizontal lines again to deselect them so that they're gray. And now we're clicking on the vertical lines to select them. That value is actually going to be 0.5 or half a point. I wouldn't go too thin with these kind of lines. A quarter is probably the smallest or thinnest I'd go, but a half point is a pretty solid number to go with. All right, once we have that done, let's go to edit, deselect all. And so since we have, again, that alternating row going from, there's the purple, clear, gray, clear, gray, clear, gray, clear. We don't need the horizontal lines. The grays actually help the viewer see the information. Technically, with all the spacing, we really wouldn't even need the vertical lines, but they help a little bit. So we're going to keep those in there. We just made them thin so that they don't stand out too much. All right. And then, yes. So the next thing we're going to do is the problem here, we have lines on the left and the right side of the table where the margins are, but we don't have a line at the top and we don't have a line at the bottom. Now, personally, I don't really care, but they want us to change that, and that's okay. Excuse me. So we're going to select the entire table again. And then we're going to go to the table menu at the top. Go to table menu. Oh, mine jumped over. Go to table options, the fourth selection down. Go to table options and choose table setup. So we're selecting the entire table again. We're going to go to the table menu at the top, go to table options and choose table setup. So this has a few features that we already saw, specifically the table dimensions. So we know it's 9 rows. We know it's 5 columns. We're going to look at the second option here. It says table border. The weight. So because we don't have a top or bottom line, it's blank because we have a left and right. But let me back up a step. Okay. So when we talk about, in this case, a table border, it's not paying attention to what's on the inside of the table. It's literally looking at the border or the outline of the table, just the rectangle, the whole table. So when you're adjusting a table border, you're just doing the top, bottom, left, and right. That's it. Nothing on the middle, just the outside. So when you see something selected like this and there's a blank value, it's because there's a conflict, meaning that there's values that do not match. So we have a left and right vertical line on the table, but we don't have a top and a bottom. And so that's what part of the problem is. So the half point for the sides is conflicting with the 0 point value at the top and the bottom. So that's why it's blank. It just mostly means that there's, again, a conflict going on. So we're going to change this value to 0.5 because they do want us to go ahead and put an outline around the entire table itself. All right. So that's going to add a value. I don't believe they want us to add anything else. Nope. And then table spacing, we're not worried about. So go ahead and hit OK. We'll do edit, deselect all. So now you can see that there's a line at the top. There's a line at the bottom. There's a line on the left and a line on the right, and they all have the same value. And that's the part that we're wanting to have. And then, of course, we have the column dividers. So between activity day, time, time fee, and the blank column, okay? All right. Well, I'll tell you what, guys, let's go ahead and hit a stop point there because we're about to get into some really fun stuff. And then let's do, because I know Silas said that he's probably got to go take the dog out for a second. So I'll give you guys 10 minutes, okay? That way you can take the dog out. I'm gonna go grab some water and such too, and then I'll be right back. But we'll see at 2:00. Let's do 2:05, so like 9ish minutes. All right, guys. All right, let's go ahead and jump back into the mess, if you will. So we're editing our table, and we looked at those vertical and horizontal lines. Um, I don't think we're gonna go into the interior, but I would if um, that little box doesn't make a lot of sense, kind of mess with it a little bit when you get a chance. And I say that because once you understand how to use it, just for addressing vertical and horizontal lines on the inside, lines on the outside, man, it makes stylizing, if you will, or making your table visually appealing so much easier. It's really truly an amazing little tool. I think it was like might have been like 7 or 8 years ago. But anyways, I just remember when they introduced it, I was like, holy crap, this is super cool. And it made my job a lot easier in terms of making things look pretty, which is really what we're told all the time. Make things look pretty. All right. So the next thing we're going to take a look at was something that, like I said before, they introduced this about 6 years ago. This is converting these cells so that they can hold a graphic correctly. It used to be because we have this space on the inside, all the way around these characters, these sentences, these values, or whatever. So if you put a picture in there, it became a real big issue because that picture, it has to stick with inside, with this inset space. So it would actually like push everything out even further. And so what they did was they found, which I'm so glad they did, and I don't know why they didn't do it sooner. But as you can see in this last column, these pound signs, these are actually set for text. So what we're going to do is we're going to convert these so that they can hold a graphic, and it's actually going to go to the entirety of that shape. So we're going to be addressing the gray boxes on the last column, and the images that we put in there are actually going to fit and be inside from edge to edge, top to bottom. And it looks really good that way. Once we were able to do that and like so easily, I was also able to incorporate images into tables, which again, this can help you with organizing things as well. If you wanted to use a table to kind of organize like an ordering piece, like even a menu, if you will, whether it's food or if it could be, for artwork or, different items as well. So we're going to start with this row that says attracting butterflies. So we're going to go over to the side, the furthest left column, and it's got that gray box. So there's a couple of ways that you can select the cell. The click and drag, if you just drag it across the cell, it'll select just that one rectangle. It takes practice sometimes. I mean, I get that. So if you need, you could just do right click, and then towards the bottom it says select, and you can always choose cell. You can also just have your cursor in there, go to the table menu, go to select. That is the eighth option down, and then choose cell as well. And it does have a shortcut. So we're just going to select that cell. It's just the one box. That's it. All right. So for this one, you can right click as well to get to this as an option. But of course, I'm going to take you guys through the menus at the top. So we're going to go to table. And then it's the 2, 4, 6. It's the eighth option from the bottom. You're going to see where it says convert rows, go up 2 spots, and it says convert cell to graphic cell. And there's also one below it that says convert cell to text cell. So you can switch it back and forth based on whatever your needs are, okay? And I've done that. I didn't like the way something looks, so I took all the images out and I just converted it back to the way it was before. So in this case, we have our cell selected. We went to table and we're going to choose convert cell to graphic cell. That little pound sign or hashtag is going to disappear. And so this is actually no longer a text frame. So we're going to take a look at that in just a bit when we go to put a graphic in there as well. So for the other 3 cells, we're going to go ahead and convert those as well. Okay, so I'm going to put my cursor into the next one for creating garden flags. I'm just going to right click, select, right click, go to convert cell to graphic. Now, if you right click, it doesn't show you another option. But it is there. It's based on what that cell is currently listed as. So even if you have that cell selected, you can go to the table menu and it'll show you both options. But when you right click, it's just going to say convert cell to graphic cell. So we're doing tending flowers and making and flying kites as well. So that's going to be attracting butterflies, creating garden flags, tending flowers, and making and flying kites. I'm going to give you guys just a moment. That's selecting just a single cell. It takes a little practice as well. The stars playing. Yeah, stars are playing. Man, I tell you, I'm not a huge sports person, but like I love soccer and I really enjoy hockey when I can sit down and watch it. Stars, man, they're number one in their conference. They got 50 wins. I'm thinking maybe this might be a run to the Stanley Cup this year. Who knows, man? Shoot. I have to wait and see. And being out here, they're actually about to move an NHL team out. I don't know who it is. So, but it's like 2 hours away. I was like, I'm not gonna go drive 2 hours to see somebody else. If it's the Stars, maybe. But they have a minor league hockey team too. That's not too far from where we live. I might have to do a date night and go check that out too. Minor league hockey is where it's at. If you get a chance, go check out the Allen Americans, man. I'm an Americans fan. I have a jersey. I've been there for the Star Wars night, which is the night to go because that place sells out. So you have to you have to look at the calendar for that night and buy tickets ahead of time. But man, it's a really fun environment because it's like there's really no bad seat in the house. It's not like the AA Center. It's like really just one set of rows and then you got box seats and stuff. But it's really fun. I love me some hockey. So Stars are getting ready to start playing this afternoon. All right, so we should have all of these converted to graphics, or to graphic cells, I should say. So now we're going to go ahead and put some images in them. As I mentioned when we started that process, these are no longer text frames. So you can't click and put your cursor in there. And in fact, when you take your type tool and move over it, it's not a single cursor. It's going to be the cursor with the box, which means you have to draw a frame around it. So these are just regular frames. We're going to go ahead and choose the selection tool, the black arrow. And then we're going to start where it says attracting butterflies. So with my selection tool, I'm just going to click that frame. It's literally just a frame. So you can select it with the selection tool. Now we're going to select it because we're going to place something in it. And I know it's been, a hot minute since we've really placed any graphics into our documents. I think it was like before that second break for Easter weekend. But remember that if you select a frame, it will actually place the graphic into the frame that you select. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and select this frame. Remember, it's file and place because we're fancy. We don't just import, we place things. Mine is taking me to the lesson 10 folder. There are 4 images. We have 4 boxes that we're going to fill in. So we have a butterfly, garden flags, kites, and watering can. So attracting butterflies, we're going to choose that butterfly JPEG. So go ahead and select it, hit open. And don't worry about the fact that it's cropped off. They're actually going to have us do some work with that here in a second. So again, let me do that just for the video. I've selected the frame, which we converted from a regular text cell to a graphic cell. So I used the selection tool, the black arrow. I went ahead and selected that box. I'm going to go to the file menu at the top, go to place. And then we're going to do butterfly.jpg. So navigate to your lesson 10 folder, but we're going to choose the butterfly one, hit open, and it's going to place it inside that frame. And just don't forget, the frame is just hiding, that's like a window or a picture frame, it's just hiding part of the image. The next thing that we're going to do is we are going to adjust the cell so that it shows the butterfly. So what they want us to do, and you could right click if you wanted to, we're going to go to fitting. But I'm going to take you to object, and then we're going to go to fitting. Remember the fit proportional, fit content, fit frame. For this one, and this is because we talked about this in lesson 4, and it's quite literally been like a month. So when we are looking at graphic frames and you're not sure which one of those two to choose to fill frame or fit content, you can always just click it, see what happens, and undo, which is really how I figured things out. But basically, if it says fill the frame, it's going to show the entire picture. Or I'm sorry, it's going to, yeah, it's going to adjust the frame to show the picture. It doesn't really care if the picture like cuts off anything. I'm sorry, my brain is starting to melt again. It's going to adjust the frame to the picture versus adjusting the picture to the frame. And that's the difference. Filling the frame is going to enlarge the frame so that it fits the picture. Fit the content is going to change the size of the picture so that it fits the frame. All right. But like I said, just click one. And if it doesn't work, undo and choose the other one. But for this one, we're going to choose that first option, fill frame proportionally. So again, we have the box selected with our graphic. I went to the object menu at the top. In the middle, I choose fitting, and then I did fill frame proportionally. Why did you not do what I asked you to do? Oh, you did not do that. It says fit frame proportionally. Oh, fit frame to content. I am so sorry. Oh, this is stupid. Okay. So it's actually doing the fourth option, fit frame to content. I also don't like this part because it's obnoxious. And it says on the tip, use options in the object fitting menu, such as fit content proportionally to adjust the image size and placement within the cell. So you can fit some of that stuff. If you're adjusting the frame, that's probably okay. I'd be more concerned if you're stretching your butterfly out. Okay, so we're gonna go through and do this whole process again. So don't worry. So the next thing we'll do with your selection tool, the black arrow, we're gonna go to creating garden flags. Just go ahead and select that empty frame at the end. So we'll go to File and Place, and then there's one that says Garden Flags. It looks like someone's laundry. Don't judge. Choose Garden Flag, hit Open. So now we're gonna do the same thing. So I'm gonna right click for this one. And then I'm gonna go to Fitting, which is kind of the top middle, and then Fit Frame to Content so that it enlarges it. But it looks like someone's laundry, I'm just saying. All right. And then we'll do Tending Flowers. All right, same thing. Choose that frame, hit File and Place. Repetition helps you remember things. So this one, because it's actually tending flowers, it's the watering can. Just use the visuals. They can kind of help you out with that. So watering can, hit open. And then again, we're going to choose fitting and then fit frame to content. As long as we're adjusting the frame. And then making and flying kites. So we'll do that. Select the frame, file and place. Choose the kite. It's been a while since I flew a kite. I should go outside today. It's windy today here. Do fitting and fit frame content. All right. So in the chat, just hit done whenever you got those all finished up. Not way I know. And if you really think, I mean, if you've worked in tables or like, Silas, you were talking about how you wanted to be able to present, artwork in a certain way. Hey, man, this could do a picture of the piece, what it's called, the dimensions, any information that you want there. The medium, if it's acrylic, if it's oil, things like that. Like you could do this kind of like a catalog or a brochure pamphlet, that kind of stuff. So this could actually lend. I had to think about it. I knew there was going to be something that would really help you out with that, and this may actually be it. And even taking these lines out, it depends on if you want to or not. But you could just do it like that. I mean, even actually this setup, just changing some of the color around might work for you. All right. And Ruthman's got it. All right. Okay. Great job, guys. I figured you nailed this. So the next thing we're going to do is take a look at these other rows because they're thin compared to these, and that makes it look kind of awkward. So we're going to do adjusting the row height. What we're going to do is we just want to adjust everything from attracting butterflies down to the making kites, making and flying kites. So If you're good with the one-click trick, all you have to do with your type tool is you could just take that tool and then click and drag it down. Okay. And then, hey, Cameron. Oh, Cameron's coming in. And then, but if you're not, which is totally fine, this one took me a while too. Hey, Cameron, just hang tight for a second. You could just click from attracting butterflies and drag it all the way down to the flags. Okay. But we're going to select everything, just those rows. We don't want the top two rows. Okay. So we're going to do everything from attracting butterflies down to the flag. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to adjust the height of these. And then So we're going to go to the window menu at the top, go to window. And then that second to the last option, type in tables. We're going to go to that one spot where we were adjusting the inset space and the vertical alignments. So go to the window menu, second from the bottom, type in tables, and then we're going to choose table. All right, this will open up our little table panel. So earlier when we were in here, I was talking about how it's got the 9 rows, 5 columns, where it says at least. So that's that value, which we're about to talk about. It addresses these blank boxes, the one to the right and the one below it. So, and this is really helpful information because this does make a difference. So the top part is the row height. That's how tall your row is. Just like how attracting butterflies, creating garden flags, these are really tall versus the illustrating botanicals, making hummingbird feeders. Those are not as tall. So this has to do with your row height. The one below it is your column width. So that's your side to side. Your day column doesn't need to be as wide as, say, the activity column because of the amount of information in there. What's really important to pay attention to in this is where it says at least. So there's 2 options here. There's at least and exactly. 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to leave this at least. At least is really helpful because you can have some cells or some table rows that maybe have more information. And so what that does is it says, we want it to be at least a certain value. Like, let's make them all at least, I'm just saying this out loud. You don't have to do this. Let's make them all at least a ½ inch. That means that each one is at least a ½ inch, but could get bigger. Can't get smaller, but it could get bigger. If you have a lot of information, that's helpful because some rows may not be as big as others or as tall. Some columns may not be as wide. The second option is exactly. The problem with that is if it's a ½ inch and you have a lot of information, then you don't have space and it won't adjust. It keeps it the exact same height or width. So exactly is a really, really cautious one to use. I really would recommend doing at least. But if you're, for example, if it's just a couple rows that have a couple lines of text, you might do exactly just so everything's the same height. It's just, whatever the base is for that. And you can always play with these. And if the row isn't expanding out or the column isn't expanding, man, you need to go back and change it. So I would leave it at least, but we're actually going to choose exactly. So this is going to show you how exactly works. All right. So in our table panel, we're going to choose that first, not the first row of things, the second one where it says at least. We're going to change that value to exactly. And then you're just going to go to the right. So this is the row. The blank box to the right is the row. The blank box underneath is the columns. So for that value, we're going to type 1 because it's going to be 1 inch. Go ahead and hit tab. And you're going to see that everything, blows out to where each row is now 1 inch tall. All right. So give me a second, jump over and watch my screen for a moment. And I'm going to show you guys how exactly that setting of exactly works. I'm actually going to do it where it says day. So the thing with exactly is it doesn't expand. So we have a problem if you add too much text. So just be aware of that. Now, if it were to say be the at least, this thing would start kicking down and it would let you start putting a lot of information in there. It's just going to expand out the rows as you need. So just keep that in mind. That's what this does. It maintains the way that it looks. Okay. All right. So that's that part. And now at least our table looks a lot more, put together, right? All right. And then I'm not going to do that one. All right. And then, hey, Cameron, we're actually almost done with this lesson. Hang tight. And because I'm recording this, you can always take care of this part later because it's very helpful.
Okay, cool.
All right. Just glad you made it in for a bit. Let me real quick get your attendance set. All right, guys. And then so the next thing we're going to do is what's called a header row. And yes, I know. I got to log in. Let me log in. So with header rows, I don't remember my password. With header rows, they can be useful. Not everybody wants them, and actually, I'll address this question because it came up like once, but I know that other people have the same question. But someone said, "Well, what if you don't want the header row there?" And the answer was, "Well, then don't assign it as a header row." But what we're going to do is we're going to make a header row and then, or a header, and then I'll show you how that. Actually, I think it is part of the lesson too, but I'll show you how that works and the benefit of it versus whether you want to use it or not. So we're because it doesn't do it automatically. It's in Excel. It's the same thing. You have to assign something as a header. So in here, we're going to choose the first two rows. Yep, just making sure. All right, so we're going to choose the first two rows, daily drop-in activities, and we're going to drop it down to activities, daytime, all of those column titles. So we're just going to select both rows. So in this case, what we're doing is we're going to select the rows, and then we're going to assign. We're going to tell InDesign, hey, these two rows, they're going to be called headers. Once they're selected, we are going to go to the table menu at the top. And then it's the sixth option from the bottom. It says convert rows. So just real quick on this. So you see to convert the rows to headers highlighted. If it's rows at the top, because it has to include the very top row, those can be headers. If it's at the bottom, those can be footers. It's not backwards, obviously. But you can always convert them to a body, which is what the rest of this table is considered. It's called a body. Think about like, your title, subtitle, body text, same kind of principle. So we have our top two rows selected. We're going to do table convert rows to header. All this does is it assigns them as headers. Okay. Now, let's take a look at what the benefit of that is. I haven't done this professionally just because it never was really applicable. I've done it like once, maybe twice that I can think of. But it does have a place. I know that it could be useful. So we're going to go down to the bottom of our table where it says making and flying kites. I'm going to go ahead and just put my cursor anywhere in that row because we're going to add some rows. All right. So, and as you can see, our table, it pretty much takes up the entire page now. And there is another set of pages below. So we're going to set our cursor in the very last row. I'm just going to right click to make it easy. But you can also go, remember, table, insert, row. But I'll right click, insert row. For the number, let's go ahead. It actually says 4, so we'll do 4. Oh, num block. There we go. And then we're going to tell it below. So what we're going to do is we're going to add more rows on the bottom of this table. It's going to kick it to the next page. So we're going to go ahead and hit OK. The reason it's doing that is because these pages are linked. So you can actually link text frames to different pages, in case I never brought that up. If I did not, I apologize profusely. It is a really cool thing to know because I've done it. So this is an example. You can actually link two text frames on different pages to each other, just like when we're doing that overflow text. But as you can see, when you scroll down to the next page, those headers are there. You can't edit them here. You'd have to go to the top of the very top of the table. But you can see that they are there. This is very beneficial if you're listing a lot of stuff, like a table, kind of like what we were talking about a little bit ago. Then it continues, and that way the viewer, no matter what page they're on inside your catalog of cool antiquities and fantastic art, it will tell them this is the activity, the day, the time, fee, so on and so forth. So, but like I said, on this page, you can't really do anything about that. You'd have to go top, but the rest of the rows in the body, those are all editable. Okay. Okay. We're going to go back up to the first page. So this, I mean, honestly, this table really ain't that bad looking. It's not terrible compared to some of the other ones. Okay, so we're gonna create table styles and cell styles. Cell styles are a lot like character styles. They're the individual cells inside. You have to select the cell for that to actually work. Table styles are like paragraph styles. You just put your cursor somewhere in the table and you can do table stuff with it, okay? All right. Surprisingly, I think this is probably the oddest part. Table and cell styles are not in the table menu. It's kind of weird because we have character and paragraph styles inside of the type menu, but also object doesn't have theirs under object styles. So object styles doesn't have it under objects. So, again, like I've mentioned this before, character and paragraph styles, it's quicker to go to the type menu for them. So don't worry about that. But for all the other styles, you just go to the window menu. We'll just go to window. So have your cursor anywhere in your table. It doesn't matter, anywhere in the table. So it looks like they're going to have us start a table style. Go to the window menu, go to styles. Remember, it's all alphabetical. So go to styles, then choose table styles, the very bottom option. Table styles. So just like character and paragraph, table and cells hang out together. So table styles and cell styles are together. In the table, let me try and make sure I can get this in one go. In the table styles panel menu, remember it's the top right corner of the panel. It's the 4 horizontal lines. We're going to go to the table styles panel menu, and we're going to do a new table style. So we have our cursor inside our table. We went to the window menu, went to styles, chose a table style. And then inside of the table styles panel, we're going to go to the panel menu and choose a new table style. All right, this should look familiar, just like character and paragraph styles. You've got all your options. However, there is one major glaring difference, and that is that checkbox that says apply style to selected. That does not exist when it comes to tables and cells. So neither one of those boxes are going to have that option. Paragraph, character, and object styles, those are the only ones that have that. So just keep that in mind. But we're not worried about that here. It's not a big deal. So we're going to call this style. It's going to be called an activity table. And honestly, it's a good idea to, again, name things based on what they are. Think about it in terms of, if Uthman's off for the day and then Silas has got to come back behind him and do something for a client, you want to make sure that, that person is able to navigate and figure things out. What's this style about? Oh, it's an activity table. Okay. So that kind of helps out. So we got that set. Whoa, mine. I must not have had my cursor in there. Hold on a second. There we go. Okay. All right. So I got mine all set. When we go down where it says style settings, so to go past general style info, style settings, you'll see border stroke, half point, which is what we did earlier. Alternating fill first row. So you can see that. That's that gray that you're seeing every other row. All right. So remember, always check that just to make sure you have the settings you need, and then we'll go ahead and hit OK. Now, since we are creating this and it doesn't have that checkbox, you're going to see that the activity style table is not selected. Okay. So, but we're not done. Apparently, they're wanting us to create some stuff. We're going to do cell styles next. So, yeah, it doesn't tell us to apply it, so we're not going to mess with it. So we're going to jump over to cell styles. Let's go ahead and we should still be in the table styles. So just click that tab next to it that says cell styles. So we got there. We're going to create a cell style and we're going to do it based on that top row, not the second one. just the top one, the purple one. So go ahead with your type tool. We're going to select that top row, daily drop-in activities. All right. For cell styles, we're going to go into the panel menu, cell style panel menu, choose a new cell style. So we select the very first row, the title, if you will, the daily drop-in activities. We're going to go to the cell styles panel. We're going to go to the panel menu and choose a new cell style. This one is going to be called table header. Table header. All right. And you can see where it says style settings. It's got all those little cool settings, the inset space, that's 0.125. We made that change. It's got a right stroke weight of a half point. It's also going to have the left, it says a bottom stroke of 0 because we don't have any horizontal lines. So as you can see, it's got all of our settings in here. But there's one thing we're going to do. This last option says paragraph styles. You can actually create paragraph styles for specific rows like cells, things like that. So for this one, they do actually have one for us. It's called table head. So we're going to drop down that paragraph styles option menu and choose table head. All right, I'm going to click preview because you should always have the preview box checked. All right, so we've called this table header, and then the very last option, paragraph styles, we're going to go ahead and do table head and then hit OK. So all it is we're just creating that cell style, okay? And now we're going to apply them. So they want us to go ahead and click anywhere in the table. I'm going to do, which one have I not done? Let's do kites. I haven't done the kites. So flying kites. Put my cursor in the table somewhere. I'm going to go to my table styles. And I'm going to choose activity style. All right, did I call it activity style? This is the activity table. I bet you I messed that one up. I totally botched that one. Hang on, let me change the name again. All right, table. There we go. All right, so that one's called activity table. So that's been applied. So now if we make any changes to the activity table style, it will apply those changes to this table. All right. And then we're going to go ahead and choose the first row for our daily drop-in activities that we just did the cell style to, and we're going to choose that table header cell style. So jump to cell styles, choose that very first row, table drop-in or daily drop-in activities, and choose table header. Now you're not really going to see anything change because those settings are already there.